evening, everyone. Welcome to our agenda for this evening, Monday, January the 28th, 2019. It's a relatively short agenda this evening, but it is now 5 o'clock and I'll bring things to order. Everybody had an opportunity to look through the agenda. Any revisions to it at this time? Councillor Connick?
I would so move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Further discussion on that? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Normally we would go through our minutes and mailbox, but I think that in light that we have some guests here from Red Deer Catering, I would ask for them to come forward up to the desk here and go through your proposal for us. Colin and Andrew, thank you for coming and welcome.
Thank you.
I'll just have you do a brief introduction, and if you can use the microphone. As you know, we live stream all of our meetings, so when the red light is on, then everyone at home can hear you as well.
Okay.
There you go. And if you can just move the microphone closer to whoever's speaking, I appreciate it. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Council.
All right, I'm Andrew Stone. It's my business partner, Colin Stone. And we're here today to propose a partnership with the LMC. We would like to help drive new revenue streams and grow the number of catered events in the Lacombe. So,
did everybody have a chance to see this ahead of time? Anybody not read through it or come through it? Because we don't want to bore you to death with reading everything about it. But just kind of to go over who we are, and if you are aware of Red Deer Catering already.
just a couple things to add to what you guys already have up there. We have a strong outside traveling catering business. We go all over central Alberta. We have trucks equipped with fridges and ovens, and these trucks, some of them, like between a combination, we have 14 ovens, and the rest of our equipment, we do fundraisers. We did a fundraiser there in November, and we had 14 ovens behind the LMC catering the event. That was for the Schizophrenia Society.
While we were there, we came here in November, and that was the first time I had been in the LMC since, I don't know, I've been quite a while. Andrew's been there quite a bit, and we were really impressed with the facility. But we saw that there's quite a bit of potential there, and you don't have a full service that the community can use at this point. We see potential for a partnership where we would be given an exclusive on any new catering, and we know that can be a problem with trying to keep the community happy with fundraisers and meetings and the local feel of some of the things that don't really raise money. And so I think that's what keeps out a lot of these types of facilities from offering an exclusive. So we have a unique approach where we would come in and offer this exclusivity and leave out all of those things so that you guys can have a revenue stream generated that you don't have right now. And you can build a quality service for people. We have quite a few events, trade shows and conventions and meetings that are looking for facilities like yours, but because there's not all the services there, it's not as attractive as it could be. And I think that if we did a partnership, we could fill those gaps.
Yeah, we're not just looking to cater for your customers at the LMC, we're looking to bring the customers to the LMC.
We go to the next page, that'd be great. The commission rates that we're proposing, right now, if we provided all the food service and people had to use our menus, our prices, we could afford to pay back to the LMC an 8 to 10% commission. And how, I think one of the problems that other caterers have with taking, or maybe I'll read it right. One of the reasons why you might not be attracted to that type of deal is that quite often, if the LMC was to put it out for tender, they would get in a catering company that would, once they got the foot in the door, they would raise the prices so much that it would actually drive business out. The majority of our business is off-site. We would keep the prices the same inside and outside. So therefore, you know that you have a marketable business inside. And we can afford to pay an 8 to 10% commission back for the extra work that we're getting in. And that would be a new revenue stream for the town, for the city that isn't existing right now. Right now, you have, it's almost like a very small community center where anybody can come in and use the kitchen, and that creates a lot of problems, cross-traffic problems using because you'll have one event coming in one day, the next day you got a whole different group coming in there, and they have a tough time. You might have noticed you're having problems with getting somebody to run the cafe, and cross-use of the kitchen is an issue. We have our own kitchen. We bring everything in, we truck everything in, so we would only use the kitchen a minimal amount, only on the days that there are events. We could still leave it open for anybody else to use. Or a lot of caterers wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, next page. Guess I covered that one already.
Yeah.
And then covered that one too.
Yeah.
This is just a sample of the revenue projections based on, with Guy, we went through, kind of looked at some of the history of how much is being catered in there. I think we'd grow quite a bit more than that. And this would be a new revenue stream. The more we fill it up, the more you would make, the more we would make. And let's go to the next one. I think that's it. The gist of it. I don't know if we got that through very clear to anybody, so you probably have a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
No, thank you for that. We appreciate it. And as you said, we certainly did have the information to go over the weekend. Of course, our agendas are posted on Thursday, so I think Councillor Ross had a question for you.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. You obviously have the Red Deer Westerner exclusive there as well. Have you have a relationship with any other facilities other than the Westerner that justifies an increase in business, or is this new outside of the Westerner?
Yeah, so the Westerner, we started a contract with the Westerner 30 years ago when they were much smaller, and we've had it this whole time, and it's worked really well. But they are now at the stage where they're spending tens of millions of dollars on going to the next level, and they're actually hiring all their own chefs, and they're bringing on their own team. So they are no longer offering a partnership with an outside catering company. So we are just stepping out of that at this point, and we have all the team, all the equipment, the history, we have the experience. So we thought that the Coma is almost like the Westerner was 30 years ago, and I think we'd be a perfect fit for that. But no, the Westerner consumed us, all of our abilities for years, so we didn't take after any other accounts because we had to be open to handle their business.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I just have 3 questions actually for you. So just for clarity, I see no mention of the Anna Maria Cafe in here, so I'm assuming that that is not part of your proposal then? You don't have any plans to operate that cafe?
Not on a daily basis. I see potential there for doing catering banquets out of, for open houses and meetings and such, similar to the other rooms. As far as the day-to-day business, I can't see anything that would be viable at this point for that. Our main focus is the Centennial Hall, but as a way to kind of sweeten the deal, we would be open to the idea of leaving any of the other rooms open. Whichever rooms you'd like to include in the deal, you would increase your revenues. We would increase our revenues, which would also increase the city's revenues.
Okay, so that brings me into my second question then about the small rooms. So if I understand what you're written here on slide number 4, it talks about, the other rooms. So your main proposal then is focused on Centennial Hall, so when events are happening, so the larger events that are happening at Centennial Hall, whether it's the half or the full size. But when, there's various meetings, I mean, all the other meeting rooms are often booked as well. So in a situation there where it's a daytime meeting and a lunch is brought in, would that booking be open to bringing in their own choice of caterer, or would they still be required to go through you?
So we would leave that decision up to the management of LMC
Okay.
to decide which rooms they would like to leave open, which customers they'd like to leave open, and so we grandfather in anybody that the LMC management decided to grandfather in, and any new customers would be required to use us. And if we didn't find a solution for them, as we had in the past with the Westerner, sometimes people come in with requests that we can't accommodate, then we allow them to use whoever they like, if the LMC management is also in agreement with that.
Okay, so just so I'm very clear, then say the county room, which is one of the smaller rooms,
Yeah.
should that be an exempted room from this proposal, then people that are booking that county room would be able to bring in some other choice
Yes.
of caterer without having to consult
That's
with me.
right,
Okay, and then for my very last question, and it goes back to those exemptions. So I think when you were talking about that you would, grandfather in, I'm assuming you meant customers as in like groups, say it's backyard friends or a church or something like that. But so those are existing customers of the facility already. But what about going forward into the future? Because I mean, obviously, ideally, we're having repeat customers, but sometimes something new might crop up. And so then, is that the expectation then that it would be the city deciding these people fall under what we consider to be that should be exempted?
Yeah, new customers, we would assume would fall into the agreement where they would need to use our services. And if there was any kind of like a one-off event that doesn't fit into normal business, like weddings and such, we would expect people to use our services. If there's a fundraiser coming along, usually what we do is we get involved and we sponsor the fundraiser so that they want to use us. I think it would be up to the LMC to decide how much they want to partner, how deeply you want to go in. The deeper you go into it with us, then the more service that you have to provide for people. And that's the point I think it's the most important, is that you need to have a fully operational service available for people.
Okay.
And we would be there for that. And if the LMC decides that this event, we don't want to use you guys for this event, as long as they're not bringing in another caterer and money's getting paid to other people, then we would object to it.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions? Well, we certainly appreciate you both coming and presenting to us, and we will take the information under advisement, and administration will be getting back to you should we have an opportunity to come to a decision this evening. And if not, it will be following the next meeting.
Okay.
But we appreciate your time, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, we're not real good at speaking, but we did make some desserts, and we'll have them out for you. Maybe you can have one before you go into your camera meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Take care. Thank you.
So given that I adjusted the progression of our agenda here, let's go back to the adoption of our minutes from January 14th. Has everybody had an opportunity to review them? And if so, are we happy with the way they are written? Councillor Hibbs?
I do not have any corrections, so I would move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? Councillor Connick?
Was there a motion to extend the meeting in here? Okay, I made this.
Councillor Ross?
Where are we here? I think there was one counselor short on one of the motions recorded.
You had to recall what it was regarding the motion, or?
Okay, here we are. First reading of 400.21. We only have 6 of us recorded. We are short. Councillor Jacobson, were you late?
I slipped out of the room.
Oh, okay, my apologies. Okay, my apologies.
Good eye those, but that was the reason for that not being recorded, which is fine. And that is, I am assuming that that is noted prior then? At the time when you excused yourself? No, not a problem.
It is not noted earlier, but we can certainly review the tape and add in the notation of Councillor Jacobson leaving and joining, which was before this motion and returned after.
Very good. Thanks for noticing that. Appreciate that. Anything else? Seeing none, we do have a motion before us. All those in favor as amended? Thank you. There was none opposed, was there? No. Very good. Let's move down to council mailbox. So there's one letter addressed to Mayor, Council, and Chief Gowdy. Was a response crafted as yet or distributed to the writer?
Yes, the response was drafted and distributed to the writer. I believe a copy was shared with council as well. Yeah, and a redacted copy will be uploaded to our website in the coming weeks.
Very good. The next item up was a letter from the Coal Miner Hockey. Chief Gowdy?
So Director Juke and I reviewed the situation today with staff, and we believe we have a solution that will address the concerns of Lacombe Minor Hockey prior to the start of the next season. We just need to meet with them and go through some of those plans, and I think we've got a great plan, and we'll be sharing a response with them directly, and we'll CC council as well.
Very good. Let's have that come before a meeting as well, then, with the possible solutions or whatever directions being taken, given that this was placed on council mailbox and as public information. Thank you. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just want to speak in favor of, the actions requested here, and I'm glad to hear that administration is taking that to heart and looking for some solutions. It is a bit frustrating when you have something that's pretty big in our sports history in this community to be upstairs. It's a lovely display, but it's not accessible. I was in there the other day actually to take some pictures of it, and it's you can't get to it unless there's an event upstairs or something like that where the gates are open. You can't actually even go see that display, so that's really unfortunate. So I'm glad that we're working on a solution for that. Thank you.
Next item up was the letter from the Alberta Order of Excellence. I wanted everybody to be aware that this program is still open and accepting nominations. think it's important for everybody in the public to know that there are methods that those individuals that go above and beyond our community can be recognized. So the deadline for submission is mid-February, I believe. So certainly if you have input from anybody in the public or there's an individual of note that you would like added to this list, certainly bring it forward. I'd appreciate it. So I think the next item up was the Red Deer Catering outline, and we've went through that. Anything else to add on any of the items in the council mailbox this evening? If not, we would, Councillor Connick?
So move we accept council mailbox information.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra, I'm assuming that was the same reason that you had to go. Okay, very good. One all suffice. All those in favor? Thank you. So if we go down to new business, have Chief Gotti walk us through the endorsement letter of support for the town of Ponoka as per our presentation from last meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So your last meeting, you received a presentation from Mayor of the town of Ponoka, Rick Bonnet. He highlighted some of the efforts their administration and council has gone through in developing a new field house complex in the community and some challenges they've had in accessing grant programs and really getting a response back on some of their applications. Now, at that time, he had indicated also that he'd gotten a response but hadn't been able to share it with his council yet, so he didn't want to share it here. I did follow up, and they have their response from the minister is attached to their last council meeting agenda. It is a worthwhile read. It's interesting. They're pretty much like, until you give us our money, you're not getting a dime of provincial money for anything, including approved projects, and we're not going to be sending you any money. So we recommend that you rescind that motion as fast as possible so that we can get sort of back to normal relationship. So it wasn't a positive, it wasn't the outcome they had hoped for, I don't think, but it's probably the outcome they expected. At the meeting, I had proposed a motion to Mayor Bonnet, and he said that that would be suitable for his needs, or for the town's needs. The proposed motion was to support equitable treatment for smaller, rural, and northern communities in accessing federal and provincial funding programs. I do recommend this evening that you pass that motion to show support for one of our long-standing regional partners. It could be construed as being lightly in conflict with the proclamation policy, but I've got a rationale there for why it's not. Take it or leave it. I do recommend you pass this. It's in line with your strategic objective of supporting a positive relationship with your neighbors.
Thank you for that. I'll be honest, I don't think anybody is not going to support equitable treatment, but I was just curious how northern communities required special attention. Here was it. Obviously, that was intentional, so I'm just curious what it was that brought northern communities.
I think a lot of Mayor Bonnet's presentation was focused on a concern that Edmonton and Calgary, the two large municipalities, were really getting unequal treatment, and so I had just said northern when I asked him if that was the appropriate motion. You're right, there's actually many grant programs that are specific to being accessible to northern communities, so that could be modified if the council saw fit.
I guess from my perspective, I found the northern part odd. We're asked after equitable treatment for smaller and rural communities. I get that, but to somehow separate northern seems ask for special area when we're after equitable treatment. It just seems odd to me, but I don't know what's everyone's thoughts on that, council? If someone would care to adjust that, we could certainly consider it. Councillor Gulleton?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would make that motion to support equitable treatment of smaller and rural communities in accessing federal and provincial funding programs.
Councillor Jacobson?
Sorry, I just wanted, so it kind of, I had the same concern, but then following that train of logic, if we state that we pass a motion to support equitable treatment for smaller and rural communities, by definition, does that mean we do not support equitable treatment for larger urban communities? So perhaps should we just not say we support equitable treatment for all communities accessing federal and provincial funding programs?
Sounds like a pretty valid point to me, but what's council thinks? Councillor Gulleton?
Well, I would certainly amend my motion. I agree with you. I just, the indication was that right now there isn't, that there's a feeling that the cities are getting more funding than the smaller and rural communities. Is that not correct?
I wouldn't be able to say if that is correct. I think that was certainly the assertion in the presentation was, yeah, definitely that was the concern.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, but isn't it true, thank you, Mayor Creasy, but isn't it true that Edmonton and Calgary already has agreements with the province pertaining to MSI funding and the rest of Alberta municipalities do not? Is that true or not?
That is true. They also have city charters that are specific to their municipalities. I would say there's different treatment, whether that's inequitable or not. I'm not sure, but definitely they are treated differently.
I assume I'm allowed to amend my motion.
You certainly are.
So I would amend the motion to state to support equitable fund treatment of all communities in accessing federal and provincial funding programs.
Very good. Anything we'd like to add on that? Hopefully that'll still serve the purpose for Mayor Bonnet, because I don't think it's anybody's idea to not support them in their quest for fair treatment, but it just, the wording seemed odd to me, so. So everybody's clear on the motion then? Nothing else to say? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. And for the next item up, Director Duke, if you would like to take us through the RFP for the ice resurfacer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Our request for a decision is to award contract for an ice resurfacer for the Gary Moe Auto Group Sportsplex through the city's fleet replacement plan as approved in the 2019 capital budget. Staff put out an RFP and received 3 bids. This memo is outlining the recommended bid. So the 2019 capital budget approved on November 26 included $165,000 for replacement of the 2009 Zamboni 525 ice resurfacer, which is costing excessive amounts of money per year to keep it operating and keep it reliable. We're also experiencing significant downtime with the unit, and it is definitely a good time to replace it. So the RFP was put on the Alberta Purchasing Commission website and the city's website, and it was also advertised in the local newspapers. The bidding closed on, the 3 vendors submitted proposals which were opened on January 9th at 2 p.m. And all of them proposed a trade-in value of the existing unit, which was fortunate. Makes an easy one-step sort of thing for the city. Staff have previous experience operating 2 of the proposed units, including the recommended unit. A third unit, an electric model that is new to Western Canada, was offered by a distributor, but the electric units are just starting to be deployed in arenas in Alberta, and there doesn't seem to be adequate track record for them to warrant entering into that use of that equipment at this time. And there's also some concern from staff about the reliability of the batteries and a lack of backup unit from the supplier should the electric unit fail for any reason in its first little while. So staff have a preference for the Olympia Millennia H unit offered by Big Hill Services. In the scoring, it scored 90 points. And the other units scored, the other proposals scored between 85 and 50 points. So the recommended vendor and unit is Big Hill Services, offering a 2019 Olympia Millennium H. And the details of that unit are there for you to have a look at. They are proposing I'm not sure if that's included here, it isn't, trade-in value, but the net cost of this unit will be $87,496 plus GST. A relatively short delivery time. So in here we have on page 3 of the memo, you do see the cost of the current unit in repairs and maintenance in the course of a year. And in the short time that I've worked for the city, it's been down at least once already. And we do have a big event coming up fairly shortly where we'd like to make sure that we have a reliable unit to resurface the ice. So the strategic plan reference, we saw that there was, council had indicated they'd like to support major events in Macomb, and a reliable equipment to support that would be an important part of it. The recommendation is that council approve the purchase of the preferred unit for a net cost of $87,496 plus GST.
Thank you, Director Duke, appreciate that. Who was up first here? Councilor Rossi, had your light on, turned it off? No?
I did, but whatever.
Go ahead.
Anyway, thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a couple questions. Is there, to CO Gowdy or Director Lewis, is there an advantage to retaining trade for our own mechanical backup and or for outdoor facilities, or I should say skating areas, so even like Crown Lake and so forth, to possibly flood them? That would be, is there an advantage, or I'm just leaving out options for having our own mechanical backup, or do we currently have one, or some history, I guess?
I'd like to call on Manager Benefield to answer that question if possible, using the audience.
That's good you brought the expert with you. That's great. Manager Benefield, pleasure to have you in council. We don't get to see you that often.
No, thank you.
So if you could just outline some of the items around this purchase for us so we can better understand, it would certainly be appreciated.
Answering Councillor Ross, we had looked, different communities do keep the existing as a backup. We haven't in the past. We usually can get service from either, if we went with industrial machine, which is Zamboni model, or Big Hills, which is Olympia, that if we couldn't get something fixed, usually we can get a loaner in a day. We do have a tractor pull Zamboni that we do use on Crown Lake, and or with Crown of the outdoor rink and Royal Oak and those. So keeping a self-propelled model doesn't work as well on those lakes as it would if we had an outdoor rink right beside us.
Okay.
Councillor Connaught, go ahead.
I was thinking, Mayor Christie, just the delivery time, that's a year, so it's clearly not going to be ready for Allen Cup or anything like that. I'm assuming Industrial Machine can't get their, because these are probably built from the ground up, are they not? Is that, I'm guessing?
Yes, they're built just like a car, special order. Each model is different. Industrial Machine was anywhere from 42 to 47 weeks. So each one, whatever we determine with the Allen Cup, we've talked about having the ability to have a backup if we need one just for that, because it's such an important event. But the third model that had been in that we had looked at that they presented as an electric was the same. They only have one model that'll be in Alberta. I think one community went to purchase it and they're supposed to be arriving in April, but they will not have anything even in stock unless it's a special order.
Okay, so just to clarify then, so we'll obviously keep using the existing one that we have. If we have a breakdown for the Allen Cup, these guys will bring one in.
We're going to arrange to have one probably here anyway, but touch wood, we don't anticipate.
Yeah, perfect.
So also in the report here, you've outlined there's the maintenance costs on it, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I have no idea if that's high, low, or not. Is that becoming excessive?
It has. We've been averaging probably for the last 3 or 4 years anywhere from $13,000 to $17,000 per year. That over the last 5 years that we've been just taking it in and getting it serviced for each season. The Zamboni model, the older model, had a Ford engine but different components and stuff, but our inline service could work little bits on it, but the majority was we were always having to bring industrial in. Olympia, we had Olympia for probably three different sets over the years, and it's a Chev chassis, it's on a GM frame, the hydraulics are a lot easier to service, and we went and talked to Red Deer. We've talked to a lot of different communities that have been both, and lots of went to Olympia feeling that it's just less costing for ongoing maintenance for the 9-10 years that we keep it.
Okay, so it would be a reasonable expectation for those costs to go down?
Yeah, for sure. We're basing it on what we used to spend when we had the previous model before this, and we had nothing like that for costing every year. And,
just the regular maintenance, sharpening blades?
Yeah, and we send it in about halfway through every second or third year. You do bearings and various things in-house, or what we can't do in-house, but to send it get serviced that way. But we were having to send this one in every season.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see you. Let it go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So I would like to go ahead and make the motion. I don't have any reason to second guess the choice that's been presented to us. I think it makes sense. This is a 10-year-old unit. That seems reasonable. This is a fairly critical component for our facility, so it's not something you can just sort of, take lightly. And it is under budget from what we had budgeted, $165,000. It's well under that. So I would go ahead and make the motion that council approve the purchase of the Olympia Millennium H ice resurfacer from Big Hill Services with a trade-in of the city's existing 2009 Zamboni 525 ice resurfacer for the net cost of $87,496 plus GST.
Thank you, Councillor Hibbs. I appreciate that. So I guess I'm just curious then, did they give us a lot more residual value in the used one, or why had we budgeted $165,000 and a $90,000 unit?
When we originally put our money in for the life cycle, we had put in enough to cover if we went completely electric, because both Zamboni and Olympia have electric models. The electric unit that got put in by the third vendor being brand new, at the time we knew that if we felt comfortable going into electric, we would have needed the 165. We did lots of research. The salesman will tell us that guaranteed it's based on cycles, that it'll get us 30, 32, 34 cycles per day for a charge. On a busy tournament, busy weekend, we can do 28 to 29 cycles, which cycles to us is floods. Back and forth. But that's what they'll use it. We felt then, talking to some communities that had it with that are really busy found that lots of times they didn't feel the charge could keep up. And then within 3 years, they probably were replacing the batteries, which at the time are anywhere from $28,000 to $37,000 to replace batteries. So I did a research too on a couple places down east, City of Ottawa, and another community that had went all electric for 4 of the units in 2014, and in 2017 made the motion to go back to natural gas, propane. Ours is one of the things we didn't make clear, but it is a dual fuel. We have natural gas, but we do get issues with the compressor, at times. So we have the ability that it's got propane on it too if we need it. So, and that has happened a few times over the years that over the weekend or something went wrong and we can switch over, which we wouldn't have.
Very good. Thank you very much for the information. Anything further? So we'll vote that motion. All those in favor? None opposed? Thanks, Helen. The next item up for our consideration is the 2019 census. Director Piché, if you'd like to walk us through that item, please.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So before Council tonight is a recommendation to proceed with the municipal census in 2019. The City of Lacombe has not completed a municipal census since 2014, where the population was 12,728 people. A federal census, which was completed in 2016, resulted in a population of 13,057 people. One of the main reasons to complete a census is to have the most accurate and most current numbers to allow a municipality to be able to maximize their benefits for grant funding. The net gain of grant funding is approximately $210 per person for the City of Lacombe. If the increase of the population is only 167 people, that will equate to the cost of completing the census in 2019. The increase in grant funding will not be recognized, though, until 2020. Therefore, an adjustment to the capital reserve contributions will be required. As mentioned in the memo, the count of private dwellings for the City of Lacombe has increased to 5,531. Based on the 2014 average dwelling count of 2.7 people per dwelling, the population could rise over 14,000 residents. That would be a significant increase in grant funding for the city. The cost of conducting a census is budgeted to be around $35,000. This includes the use of the census software that was developed by the City of Airdrie. Airdrie does contract out their software services to numerous other municipalities and conducts their own census annually using the software. They have conducted a census down to conducting a census down to a science. The software allows residents to enter in their own information online, and the City of Airdrie has had a success rate of 73% on their online responses, which results in much less door knocking by enumerators. For the 2014 census, Lacombe did use Airdrie software, and at that time we did have approximately 30% response for online resident entry. I would expect that with the help of our marketing team, that number would increase significantly because so many people are embracing the ability to to enter in their own data. Therefore, it is recommended that Council does conduct a census in 2019, which would be funded by an adjustment to the capital reserve contributions and to designate April 2nd, 2019 as Census Day in Lacombe. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So my question right away is, I get this is super important if we can get some grants attached to this, but it's in a year that we will have 2 elections. Will the optics of this, would the citizen be wary of campaigning and all of that? I don't know if that's something the city wants to consider, but I thought door knocking is not always received super well. And they're going to have people who are campaigning at their doors twice plus this. I just wondered about the optics of that, first of all. And then secondly, I was just curious, regarding the staffing that would have to do this, and with some people maybe not being here, how you felt that we could still cover the staffing.
That's a very good question in terms of the elections. I have to honestly say I did not consider that. See, I go, you know. Yeah, but in terms of staffing, we have some casual staff who are willing to step in with legislative coordinator Teddy Bowden being away. They have taken the training and they have been past enumerators as well and are willing to step in and do what they can help with.
Thanks, Councillor Hoekstra. Chief Gowdy, you had something to add?
So there was some provincial training that we had staff go to other than Ross as well. So we are prepared to go ahead with it. I guess we would hope for a large uptake on the online responses and maybe that would defray some of the need for door-to-door knocking is all I can say. But really, yeah, that is a possibility for sure.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So, in light of a new council, a new strategic plan, will the questions be revisited and or reviewed as to relevance of even some of the questions? Citizen brought forward to the attention of some of the relevance of it's really income per household relevant, or how many years have you lived in Lacombe? I guess I think there's opportunity to engage stronger, I guess, in some of the concerns in light of new council, new interests, new strategic plan. I would just think it would be great to see some of the think more out of the box of what we're facing in years forward compared to previous censuses. That's it. Makes sense.
Thank you for that question. One of the best things to do is to always have comparators from one census to the next. So our last census being with the federal census, we would try to align a lot of the questions to be the same as what they had asked. However, we can garner more information with questions using other departments if they're wanting to get some information, say with recreation or with other services, yes.
Chief Cuddy, could you just walk us through some of the financial aspect of this when it's a per capita situation for funds going out with the library and regional solid waste, for instance? Is it just are the adjustments made at the time of count, or are they, how does that accounting work?
Sure, it is difficult to actually assign a specific cost. What you see here are the per capita requisitions and grants that we receive that we can really discreetly say this is the cost. I was saying to Diane earlier that really the total net amount per person, we're saying it's a positive 210, but we balance the budget to zero every time, so it's zero. It's just that we have this extra infrastructure that we're having to look after right now, and until we get a proper count, we're not really receiving the revenue that we need to serve that infrastructure. In terms of the timing, so the police operating grant, that's going to be immediately after you get the census. So if we do it in 2019, 2020, you'll see that change. The outgoing operating grant, the regional library grant, that's going to be the same thing, 2020. So those two kind of balance each other out. Regional solid waste grant actually allows for retroactive requisition to 1 year. Is that right? 1 year. So they can and will come back and say, well, you know, we need some money because we were serving more residents over the last year. The capital grants, those will all come in 2020. And I think one thing that is not, so the year after, one thing that's not really highlighted in this memo is that initially there is a shift with this from your capital grants, which are fed by your operating budget, onto the back of your solid waste utility rate. So where you're going to get an increase in your solid waste cost due to that outgoing regional solid waste, it says grant, but it's really a cost of requisition. you're going to get a corresponding increase, but those are all going right into your capital grants, into your infrastructure grants. So it takes a while before that money that's coming into the infrastructure grants will actually feed back into your operating grant in terms of lower operating costs. So initially, you're going to see an increase to reserve contributions, but correspondingly an increase to utility rates for the garbage utility. So it is net positive, but it shifts it around a little bit.
Appreciate that, because I wasn't just sure what the impact would be, but I know it couldn't possibly even be immediate, so it's nice to see how that works in. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I make a motion that council conduct a census in 2019, which would be funded by an adjustment to the capital reserve contributions and designate April 2nd, 2019 as Census Day of Macomb.
Thank you. Any additional input? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? All in favor? Thank you. And once again, Director Piché, can you take us through the local emergency management regulations?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So before council tonight is an update on the new local authority emergency management regulations that will come into effect as of January 1st, 2020. The Government of Alberta has made changes to the emergency management legislation due to the number of catastrophic events that have happened in Alberta over the last few years. They want to ensure that all municipalities are prepared and to ensure the safety of all Albertans in these events. The government has made amendments to the Emergency Management Act, which have added a new set of regulations to the Act, as well as ensure that evacuation provisions are clear and in place for the emergency plans, and those acting in good faith are not liable for their actions taken when enforcing evacuation orders. And then there is also a lot of just little technical amendments in terms of wording and such. From that Emergency Management Act, that's where the creation of the local authority emergency management regulation came into place. So what that does is that it ensures that each municipality has an advisory committee as well as an agency to manage their emergency management plans. The advisory committee is normally comprised of the elected officials, and the agency committee is comprised of the administrative staff and is responsible for the administration of all the emergency management in the local authority. Both of these committees are required by bylaw to be established, and their responsibilities of how often they meet, their memberships, and that there is a director of emergency management for the municipality that will be in command, control, and will coordinate the systems of emergency management. It also discusses about a regional collaboration, and that if a municipality has delegated some or all of their powers to a regional collaboration, that there has to be a bylaw that establishes what powers and duties have been delegated and if they will be maintaining an independent emergency management agency. It also states about the training requirements, and one of the items is that there is elected official training and that they must be completed by January 1st of 2021. However, the training isn't quite yet ready, and we will be keeping an eye on the website for the elected officials for council, and we'll let you know as soon as it is available. There is training for directors of emergency management, and again, there is another basic emergency management training that is still being created and refreshed on that side, so we will be keeping an eye on that as well. And then also with the fact that municipal staff, all staff, have to have a basic understanding of emergency management and at least the ICS 100. The regulation also states that emergency management plans have to be reviewed at least once a year, and they have to be made available to the Alberta Emergency Management Agency at the province, and they have the ability to review and comment annually. And then each municipality goes through emergency management exercises, and that they have at least a tabletop exercise conducted annually starting January 1st, 2020, and a functional exercise must be conducted at least once every 4 years, starting in 2020, again, January 1st, 2020. The one thing about the City of Lacombe, though, I have to say we're very proactive in this last year. We have put ourselves into a position where many of these requirements are already being met. We have both an advisory committee and an agency, and they're both being managed by our bylaw 369, bylaw emergency management, municipal emergency management, and that even though we're not fully in line, we will be reviewing that bylaw and bring it back to council before the end of this year so that we are going to be compliant with that. All of our staff who are our deputy DEMs as well as our DEM have at least ICS 300 training, and some of us also have DEM training, Director of Emergency Management training, and we have one director who has gone through all of the courses with Alberta Emergency Management Agency, so we're in good shape there. As I mentioned, the elected official training is still not quite yet, so that will be coming online soon, and we will let you know as soon as it does. And that is my summary of the update of legislation. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Appreciate that, Director. So just to be sure on the bylaw review and update, that was for bylaw 369 then, was it?
That's correct, yeah.
That'll be this year?
Yes.
Clean up some of the old wording in the...
We will be definitely updating all that.
Appreciate that. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I too wanted to express some appreciation for cleaning up that bylaw, or looking at it for us through new eyes again. And I also appreciate that we have been proactive and we can be quite comfortable with where we're sitting as a municipality. I just had one tiny correction to make. We are part of a partnership and it's listed here that it's 11 municipalities. It was 11, it's now 10. So your list is correct. It's just that what preceded there said 11 and it's 10 municipalities.
Thank you.
So should I have a motion to accept the information? Go ahead.
Thanks, Mark Creasy. Yes, I will move this report to be accepted as information.
Thanks, Councillor Hoekstra. All those in favor? Good. Let's go through. Looks like Councillor Gullickson and I were the only ones who want to get our reports at a time, so we've got a written hard copy of yours. Did you want to start out, Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I don't have a lot on this one. I reported earlier, so on January 13th, attended the Lacombe Days meeting. Did more budget review and grant applications were on the table. And on January 24th, attended the joint meeting with Lacombe County, which I found very informative.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs, did you want to go up next?
Sure, thank you. So my report is there. I don't really have any additional comment. I think I reported on some of this orally in the past. The only one I really wanted to highlight, just because it was super fun, was being invited to come speak to some of the grades at Father Lacombe School in my role as politician. Lots of great questions that they had for me. It was really quite a pleasure to share what we do here with the students. So yeah, if you get a chance to do that, it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Who's up next? Just trying to stay in order with the way that they're put on the reports here, so Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So yeah, I've just had a couple events recently, and I did highlight what's happening with Lacombe Foundation when we were joining with the county last week. But in order to get grant funding for a new lodge, we need to have a proposal on the table that's shovel-ready, they call it. So that's the process that Lacombe Foundation is in right now. They hired an architectural firm to present a proposal to what the new lodge would look like and what kind of housing that lodge may contain. So I listed a few things there that the senior population in our area is definitely going to grow, so what do we build towards? And then the other part that I highlighted there is that the Lacombe Foundation has sent its requisition into the city just to acknowledge that we are required to help fund some of the activities at the lodge, but some of this requisition is also going into a surplus or a fund to build the new lodge. Then secondly, I too attended the meeting last Thursday night. I also found it very, very interesting to be with our colleagues at the county. And yesterday I had a chance to go to an organ recital up at Berman that I didn't list here, and so I'm appreciative of the opportunity that we can do that, sort of have that kind of activity here in our city, so I'm thankful for what they contribute as a university to our city.
Thanks, Councillor Hoekstra. So you had some questions there about the sizing of the building. Is that something that you hope to glean after the citizen engagement survey, or was this just for us to think about? Or
Thanks for that question. Yeah, it's basically the questions that are coming to the table there, and yes, there will be that survey, and hopefully the firm that has been hired will come to a conclusion that we have a fair presentation to give to us at a later date.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Councillor Jacobson?
Sure. Yeah, so my report is there to read. Just one thing I wanted to apprise council on, and perhaps Councillor Connick can involve in this as well too, just to give you a bit of an update of where we're at with the Bolt Committee. So I'd probably say the most accurate way to describe the consensus is that there hasn't been a consensus derived yet. And it seems to be becoming clearer and clearer that a real drive to increase ridership is not a goal that's necessarily the #1 priority from everybody on the count or on that commission. And I'm not saying that in a negative fashion, I'm saying that in an honest fashion. And it also seems to be becoming clearer and clearer that any changes to increase ridership, unless they're going to be implemented immediately, are going to come with a fairly hefty price tag. So I just wanted to apprise you all that's sort of where it's heading right now. I don't have anything concrete to report yet, but it genuinely isn't looking as promising as I had once hoped when we had started this adventure with this commission. So that is unfortunate, but that is the reality.
Thank you for that. Looks like there may be some questions. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So yes, to follow up on that, you say that ridership is not a focus, not a primary issue. What are the issues, and if that is not their primary issue?
So again, and I want to stress that it's been very collegial. However, it genuinely appears that the focus from some of the other members of the committee are more about maintaining it as a social service, and that a drive to increase ridership is seen very much as secondary, if that makes sense.
If I might just follow up on that, then I wonder if council's agreeable that a message can go back through the members that we have from council to that committee, sort of with the understanding, so that they have the understanding that the reason that we're in this situation is because there was an expectation that that service would improve. So that really does need to be somewhat of a focus. Otherwise, unfortunately, we might be back asking the same question that we were asking, whatever that was, about 6 months ago, and I don't want to be in that position. I really don't want to be in that position. So I wonder if maybe that's worth a discussion.
I can assure you that message is very clearly conveyed.
Councillor Hoekstra?
I guess I was, as I was driving through Red Deer this past week, and I noticed many buses go by me with 1 or 2 people on it. And I wondered if we have a skewed sense of what transportation should look like because we've only got 1 bus to watch. And so, so maybe that's fair that increased ridership isn't the point of regional or transportation. I just want to have that opposing view that maybe it is for those people who do need it. I know it's a costly service, I'm not denying that, but just today I heard about someone who's moving to town because she can take the Bolt to Black Falls to work. I don't know. I still, of course, endorse it as a service we need in our city.
Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think you go anywhere where there's public transit, you can see buses that are empty or partially empty. But there's other times of the day that there's people standing on those buses. We don't have that. We don't have a population base to sustain this system in my mind. I would love to see it work, and I put forward some ideas towards that. That just won't happen now with the changes with the Connex, for example. So I don't think it's sustainable myself personally, and I give these gentlemen credit on that committee. I'm sure it's difficult when you're trying to improve a system and the consensus isn't there in the committee. So I give you a lot of credit for being on there, and I hope it works out, but I don't think it will.
So who else needs to do the report yet? Was there any verbal ones, or Councillor Kovic?
I didn't get mine in on time, so I'll have it in for next time.
One black mark for you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Other than the county meeting, my meetings were basically Wednesday evening, which report is due Wednesday afternoon, so there was some activity between Wednesday and today, so it'll be next report. Thank you.
So it won't take long to do my report. I did have a written report, but it was not in on Thursday for time for uploading, which is not a problem, but January 11th Farmers Bonspiel, had some positive feedback there and a job well done. I want to thank Councillor Gullickson for addressing the banquet crowd and portraying our thanks to the organizers of that event. 75th anniversary for an annual Bonspiel is a pretty notable occasion, so we appreciate that. And an opportunity to go to a Lacombe Adams tournament on January 20th. That was good fun. And Lacombe even won the final after overtime and a shootout, so it was an exciting game for sure. And then I had a meeting with the Honourable Bill Blair, Minister of Border Security and Organized Crime Reduction, to provide some feedback on Lacombe's crime situation as it relates to firearms. And the minister has been tasked by the Prime Minister with investigating the possibility of improving firearms regulations and to look at changes in ownership of handguns and assault rifles. I think it's safe to say that a good portion of the public has opposing views in Western Canada to what the plans are or what they would like them to be in Ottawa. So I took the opportunity to let them know my feelings on the subject, and it was a very short meeting. Chief Gowdy, did you want to go through your CAO report?
I won't go through in detail, but I will highlight one item. The first one there, that we did receive insurance payment for the replacement of the curling rink roof from our insurer at AUMA. Jordan, do you remember what the total was for that?
We're on the spot, I don't know the number, 250.
I was going to say 240, so I think somewhere in that range, about $250,000. So we shared that news with the county as well. So that's great news for the capital reserve. Sure. We were also successful with a grant for our intern. We were approved the intern application. So that is a benefit of about $45,000 for the city as well. Thanks for reminding me.
Appreciate that. Was there any other report-related items? If not, we could, Councillor Connick?
Also move we accept reports of information.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. All those in favor? Thank you.
Sure.
Let me get the wording correct on our notices of motion under section 11 here. First one from Councillor Ross, to direct administration to develop a 3-month neighborhood pilot project to gauge public feedback and operational impacts from reducing collection from weekly to bi-weekly, and I'm assuming that was solid waste collection. Maybe just, I think maybe that was a typo that was not in there. And the second one was from Councillor Hibbs, and it reads that strategic plan strategy 4.3.3b, council considers review of the city's solid waste management model be reprioritized from medium priority to high priority, and that the target delivery time be advanced from the current target of Q2 of 2021 to a new target of Q4 2019. Further, that administration present the impact to the timing of other priority strategies at the 2019 Strategic Plan Annual Review and to the 2019 operational budget at the 2019 Spring Operating Budget Adjustments. I just want to know, Chief Gotti, so is that a realistic expectation to have those budgetary impacts assessed and be able to present them for those spring budget adjustments?
Yes, I believe that will be acceptable. Both councillors for these notices of motion were generous enough to give us a heads up and actually work with administration in developing to make sure that it satisfied their needs. And so it was actually my oversight that Councillor Ross's motion does not include a specific reference to solid waste. We went back and forth on it a number of times. My apologies, Councillor Ross.
No, like I said, I think there was merely a typo in between reducing and collection to add solid waste. Okay. Councillor Hibbs, you're satisfied with the way your notices of motion read? Very good. Was there any other items that you passed over to Councillor Ross?
I'd just like to possibly elaborate more on my motion. As a concern of mine was...
So, Councillor Ross?
I'm sorry.
So just as more protocol, it's not really appropriate that we act or discuss one this time, but you're certainly encouraged, more than welcome to do so at the next meeting. And not just because I'm not here, but that is the way it's supposed to work. All right, so we do have some in-camera items, if someone would care to make a motion in that regard. Councillor Gullickson?
I'll move that we move into camera.
Thank you. The time is so noted at 6:14. It might be a record for us. And we'll take a few moments now just in case there's any interest from the press to go over a few things and give the gallery an opportunity to exit, and we will reconvene at 6:20. How does that sound? Have we enough time? Thank you.
There's talk of desserts.
And it's over there.